Killers of the Flower Moon is a nice narrative of a film with very excellent acting and cinematography. It encompasses the hardships the Osage tribe went through during this time when no investigations happened when several of their tribe members mysteriously died. It was a very informative movie that retold these events with care, where the only criticism I'd say would be in the editing. Some scenes felt out of place, while others felt more like filler and could have been cut out from the movie entirely. They did not advance the story or have some significance to them other than showing the world. And as much as I enjoyed watching several scenes as it tied to the world building, adding atmosphere, due to it feeling like just filler, it extends the movie's runtime, pushing some viewers from seeing the movie in the first place, which is a shame because it's a really good movie. I can't explain it very well, but it's something with the editing that bugs me the wrong way. I've seen multiple movies that have similar editing styles, and yet something just doesn't seem right. Maybe it's just due to some scenes feeling unnecessary and more like filler content, as it didn't provide any context to the main story, only seeming to depict the world around these characters to provide further context of the situation. Or it could have been that something was missing within the edit that subconsciously I noticed while viewing the movie. Leaving me wondering what it could be, I viewed the movie again and noticed that some scene changes were jarring to me because there was either no explanation to the scene change or a transition to bridge these scenes together. For example, after Ernest and Hale talk for the first time, it cuts to John Whitehair, who appears to be choking on poison. Then there's a small montage of various Osage tribe members who have died mysteriously without any investigation, which is narrated by Molly. We then cut to Molly, and the story continues with a small explanation of how Americans control the money, part of the world, and how Ernest and Molly meet. Ernest and Hale's conversation mentioned putting Ernest as a driver, but the following scene was a montage of mysterious deaths, then of Molly talking about money, followed by, finally, Ernest and Molly meeting, Ernest offering her a ride. Not only was Molly's introduction short, we don't come back to the mysterious murders or John Whitehair until much later. So not only does this scene's placement feel odd, because it harshly jumped into the scene, by the time the scene's importance come back into play, we probably have forgotten half of the names of these Osage members. And although we do get a lot of world building, it takes a while to get back on track to the main storyline, as Molly accepts a ride from Ernest. In the hopes that I can explain what I mean, let's look at another example. After Anna's unfortunate end, we cut to a tribal meeting in regards to Anna and Charlie's death, of which didn't, to my recollection, bring him up beforehand or afterwards. It then cuts back to the previous scene where Anna's body was found. Why not just have the tribal meeting after this scene instead? Why was there a scene stitched inside another scene when the scene between the tribal scene could have been shown before the tribal scene?
And they say they are my friends, but I don't think they really are.
Oh,
Some of them don't even pretend to work.
In the scene where Bill Burns talks about his current investigation of Molly and Ernest, it cuts around, but the sequences of scenes were bridged together, unlike the other jarring scenes. There was a reason to cut between these scenes, making it feel smooth and not jarring. The tribal scene happened because of Anna's death, there's that bridge, but the scene change to go back felt slightly out of place. Those scenes do hold significance as it comes back into play later, but its placement could have been put somewhere better. In another scene, there's a big family argument involving Anna being drunk, then cuts to Charlie being shot. The next scene, Ernest and Brian are talking about Charlie's death, leaving me confused again, trying to figure out if I had missed something or not. Why? The argument scene ends with Ernest escorting Brian out of the house. It cuts to Charlie being killed, then back to Ernest and Byron. At first, I thought it switched back to the same scene, given that Ernest and Byron stepped outside, but as it turns out, it wasn't, as they heard Charlie died. Or did Brian knew beforehand and just revealed that information to us in the continuous scene, and we see Charlie die before to understand Byron's conversation with Ernest? I really don't know, and the way it was edited didn't help. Molly's mother sees an owl. She says that it's a sign that means she's dying, but after that scene, it doesn't mention her mother or equivalent until 40 minutes later, cutting drastically from Hale and Ernest's conversation about keeping secrets from Molly. I had assumed that upon seeing the owl, she'd only have around 2 more scenes, but I was wrong. At times, the next scene explains what we just saw, in others is more so a seed given to us for a future scene. It wouldn't be mentioned until much later, not being able to remember this seed with much detail. Because of this, not only do some scenes feel out of place or not needed, but the pacing of the movie was affected because there was so much information I had to take in that I couldn't keep up. However, with that in mind, I still enjoyed watching the movie. I don't mind the runtime of the movie, especially if it's well crafted with storytelling as this one. Unfortunately, the editing didn't help the storytelling because of the confusion it caused me. But again, this editing thing felt more like nitpicking than anything else, because I was more curious as to why it was done this way. The movie was still great because of the acting, the cinematography, and the story itself. It was really engaging, and I was invested in the story as far as I could understand it. Lily Gladstone's performance was really amazing. I really felt her plight, pain, and illness. Overall, Killers of the Flower Moon was a very well acted, character driven movie that at times felt like it dragged on for a little bit, mainly due to the scenes that never really went anywhere. With some harsh edits, I was left confused on what was going on. But I did enjoy the overall story and how things played out. I felt Killers of the Flower Moon was a very good crafted and executed movie.